The diner was silent except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan and the soft clink of a coffee cup being set down somewhere near the counter. Morning sunlight spilled through the wide windows, painting long golden rectangles across the tiled floor. And in the middle of that quiet, almost cinematic calm, a small girl dropped to her knees. Her hands trembled as she clasped them together. Her voice broke as she cried out, her tears catching the light like tiny glass beads. Every biker in the room turned to look at her, stunned. It wasn't the kind of sight you expected to see in a place like that. Not in front of men who looked like thunder and rode with a too. But there she was, a child, begging them to arrest her. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in moments that remind us that compassion still exists in this world, please take a second right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. This story deserves to be felt, not just heard. Her name was Sophie Maynard, and she was only 8 years old. The first time she walked into the Devil's Diner, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unkempt, her shirt dusty and torn, and her knees scraped from running on rough pavement. The bikers, members of the local group known as Devil's Disciples, were gathered for their usual Sunday breakfast, a ritual they'd kept for years. Among them was Grayson Hole, a man built like a wall, his beard silvered with age and his arms inked with a lifetime of choices. He was the chapter leader, feared by some, respected by all. When Sophie fell to her knees before him, every head turned, every fork froze midair. Her voice trembled as she pleaded, "Please, please arrest me. I can't go back home." The words struck the men harder than they cared to admit. These were bikers who had seen it all. Fights, loss, even prison, but nothing prepared them for a sobbing child begging for punishment she didn't deserve. Grayson's jaw clenched. He knelt slightly, trying to meet her eyes. Behind him, the others watched, some exchanging confused glances, others just staring in silence. Sophie's story came out between choked breaths. Her mother had passed away months ago. Since then, she'd been living with her mother's boyfriend, a man who promised to care for her, but turned into something cruel instead. He blamed her for everything, for bills, for his temper, for the loneliness he carried like poison. Every night, she'd hide under the kitchen table until he left for the bar. And every morning, she'd wake up hoping someone would take her away. That morning, she'd run. She didn't even know where her feet were taking her until she saw the group of leather-clad men outside the diner. Rough, loud, and powerful. In her young mind, they looked like law itself. So, she thought, if anyone could arrest her, maybe they could also save her. The men didn't know what to do. They were used to engines, not tears. The youngest biker, a tall man named Rhett, looked like he wanted to cry himself. Grayson stood there, frozen for a moment, his mind torn between disbelief and anger, not at the girl, but at whoever had made her think she was the problem. He finally spoke softly, asking where she lived, who had hurt her, and how long it had been going on. She could barely answer. She just kept whispering, "Please don't send me back." Grayson straightened up and looked at his men. They didn't need words, one nod. And every single one of them knew what was about to happen. They weren't cops, but they were men who knew injustice when they saw it. Within minutes, Grayson led them out, engines roaring like thunder as they rode toward the run-down house Sophie had described. She stayed behind at the diner with the cook, a kind older woman named Marlene, who wiped her tears and gave her a warm cup of cocoa. When the bikers reached the house, they didn't go in angry. They went in firm. The men who opened the door staggered back when he saw them. 10 men in black leather vests standing shoulder to shoulder, their expressions cold as stone. Grayson didn't touch him. He didn't need to. Just one sentence left his mouth. "You'll never lay a hand on that girl again." Then he made the call, not to threaten, not to fight, but to the sheriff. By sundown, the man was in handcuffs, and Sophie was officially under the care of social services. But the story didn't end there. Weeks passed and the devil's disciples kept showing up, not to scare anyone, but to visit Sophie. They brought her food, clothes, and even a small pink bicycle with her name painted across the frame. Grayson found himself checking in every day after work, pretending it was just to make sure she's okay. But deep down, he knew she had stirred something inside him, something he thought he'd buried long ago. He had once lost a daughter in a car accident. Her name had been Hazel, and she would have been just about Sophie's age now. One sunny afternoon, when Sophie saw Grayson waiting outside the diner again, she ran straight to him. She wasn't afraid anymore. Her eyes sparkled as she said she was starting school again soon, that she was living with a foster family nearby, and that she missed everyone at the diner. Grayson felt his throat tighten. When she hugged him, he didn't know what to say. He just placed his rough, tattooed hand gently on her back and whispered, "You did nothing wrong, kid. You were brave." That night when the bikers gathered for their usual coffee, the conversation wasn't about road trips or engines. It was about Sophie. They decided without question to sponsor her schooling, to be there every year, every milestone. They called her their little sister. Months later, at a local charity ride, Sophie stood at the edge of the road waving a handmade sign that said, "Thank you for saving me." The entire group slowed their bikes as they passed her, the wind whipping through her hair, and for the first time in a long time, the big gruff men who once ruled the road felt tears sting their eyes. If this story touched even a small part of your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Let's fill this world with stories that remind us kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Now, before the ending, I want you to comment below. Would you have stopped for Sophie that day if you saw her kneeling on the diner floor? I'd love to know what your heart says. Grayson never called himself a hero. But every Sunday morning when the bikes pulled into the diner parking lot and Sophie's laughter echoed through the air, he'd look at her and smile quietly. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting the world. It's protecting the smallest soul who believes the world has already given up on her. And for the devil's disciples, that was the ride of their lives.